The Cradle of Aviation Museum contains many historic planes and artifacts. Every artifact or plane in the museum was constructed, designed, or manufactured under license for historical significance to Long Island. Overhead in the atrium, there's a Paracel, astronaut in full gear, a Blue Angel F-11F, a soaring glider, and a fleet biplane. That arrangement gives the visitor a sense of what is in the galleries. The structure of the museum walks a visitor through a timeline. The timeline is an arrangement that covers specific time periods. The visitor and docent should follow the timeline. That way, he or she can appreciate how far we have come in such a short period of time. First thoughts of flight were recounted in Greek mythology with Icarus. He was a myth. Later in the Middle Ages, Leonardo da Vinci drew his concept of manned flight. None was flown, but the basic idea how to fly was born. The first gallery showcases the first glimmers of aviation.
Bell's kite.
Hot air balloon, numerous information plaques. The balloons that rose into the air were made by the Montgolfier brothers. In 1783, their balloons soared over Paris. Otto Lilienthal mastered control of gliders in the 1890s. He pushed the bar to shift the center of gravity to pitch or roll the glider. The innovations rapidly advanced. Langley flew his steam-powered unmanned airplane. Later, the Wright brothers built and flew the Wright Flyer Model A in 1903 at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Vin Fiz, a Wright Flyer Model B, actually flew from Long Island to the West Coast. The flight took over 45 days and it was historic. Overhead is the Curtiss Golden Flyer, but first ever ailerons. The word aileron is French, meaning little wing. They are between the wingtips and used for roll control. Note the use of bamboo for the structure. The Masson Field hosted and built the Blériot, a French airplane. It's a monoplane with a simple three-cylinder engine and the pilot sitting behind the wing with the head and shoulders slightly above the wings. The Blériot was a very successful airplane. A young lady of some social standing, Harriet Quimby, flew the Blériot and was the first woman to obtain a pilot's license. Tragically, she died at an air show in Boston, Massachusetts. A side note, she designed an outfit that could be converted by buttons from a skirt, pants. It was the early 1900s, and women's fashions, high button shoes, long skirts to the ankles. The video booth has videos of early airplanes, and note the Blériot landing and what the pilot did after he landed. World War I needed aviators. A Penguin Breeze was the answer to train pilots how to handle a short wheel-based fighter and ground maneuvers. The Curtiss Jenny to train pilots to fly before being sent over there. The Gnome rotary engine powered many Allied fighters. The rotating cylinder's gyroscopic effect caused interesting challenges to the pilot. There are two Lindbergh planes in the museum. One is the barnstorming JN-4 Jerry, and the other a refitted 1928 Ryan Borum to duplicate in every detail the Spirit of St. Louis. He flew that plane once. It was used in the movie The Spirit of St. Louis. The 1930 seaplanes from the huge Pan Am Boeing 314 to the Grumman Goose, the Peel biplane glider, and the Curtiss Robin seaplane. The Grumman F-3F plane can demonstrate propeller rotation, retracting landing gear, and tailhook. This plane is a favorite for young children and adults. World War II, the CG-4 glider carried fully equipped soldiers behind enemy lines. The landings were perilous. The CG-4 gliders were meant to be used for one mission only, but some survived to be used again. After the war, the CG-4 glider was war surplus, but the owner bought it for the crate it was in and discarded the plane in the woods. It was recovered and restored by the restoration team. Field Marshal Grommel ordered poles to be planted in the expected glider landing fields. For the most part, they were avoided by our pilot. At the beginning of World War II, the Grumman Wildcat F-4F bore the brunt of the war in the Pacific against the Japanese Zero until the Hellcat F-6F arrived. The Hellcat was a match to the Zero with key advantages of speed, self-sealing fuel tanks, and armor for the pilot. The P-47 Jug tore up planes, trains, and the Panzer tanks with 4 50-caliber guns on each wing. With turbocharging, the P-47 could do high-altitude escort for the bombers. When World War II ended, both Grumman and Republic tried to produce an inexpensive civil airplane. The Grumman Kitten failed due to the high production costs. The Republic CB succeeded. Built with a simple airframe and off-the-shelf items, it was portable. Many of the CBs still fly today. The Grumman Cougar F-9F had great handling characteristics. Pilots were able to land on Gara and flew in the Korean War. The Republic Thunderjet F-84B also flew in the Korean War. It was rescued and restored from a desert target range.
The Tomcat F-14 cockpit was recovered from a crash. Grumman used it as a test article to check the fit and compatibility of equipment upgrades.
The Space Gallery. As you enter the gallery, you are surrounded with many types of missiles. On the right is an exhibit of the Goddard liquid fuel rocket. That started the U.S. on the road to the eventual flight to the moon. The yellow missile is a copy of the German V-1 buzz bomb to be used against Japan, but never used. Check the number painted on the V-1 buzz bomb. It is the area code of Suffolk County. The clean room shows the Test Article 1 LTA that was used to check the fit and connection of equipment before it was installed on the LEM that was to go to the moon. The cradle has the real Apollo 19-13 LEM that was to go to the moon. The Apollo program was to go to 20 missions, but it was canceled at 17 missions, which was the last time we put a person on the moon. The size of the LEM package is surprising. Note, the legs are extended and the ladder is several feet above the ground. At launch, the LEM package sat enclosed just below the service module at launch. The legs were folded so it could fit into the shroud. Upon exiting the LEM room, at the left there's a replica man module, but the parachutes attached to it was flown on Apollo 17 from the Earth to the moon and back. On the left there's a showcase that contains a piece of the moon. Further on, there are several training modules the astronauts used. Overhead, there is a space shuttle with its shuttle bays open and robotic arm extended to move equipment. There is a wheel that was used on the space shuttle. Note the scruff marks created upon landing the shuttle at the Kennedy Space Center. X-Ride. A thrill a minute. The X-Ride is showing Flying with the Blue Angels. Hang on to your seat as the Blue Angels go through their maneuvers. The motion of the simulator makes you feel like you're in a jump seat. Youngsters, adults exit the ride with huge smiles. The Grumman Dome Theater seats 300 people and hosts films and the all-digital planetarium show. Pilots nicknamed the Republic A-10 the Warthog. Felt it was ugly. However, pilots loved the maneuverability and the ruggedness of the Warthog. Both the Maverick missiles and the Gatling guns delivered devastating blows to the enemy. It served with distinction in both Desert Storm wars. Some of them came back from a mission with pieces of wing missing and holes in many places of the plane. Even with the plane shaking and tough to handle, they made it back. There was a news video clip showing on TV of an A-10 weaving in and out of anti-aircraft fire from the ground above at Baghdad. The pilot made it back to base.
Grumman
named its fighter aircraft after cats, hence the name Tomcat. It was unique for its swing wings. At low speed, the wings swung out. At high speed, swung in to an arrow-head wing shape. With advanced computer and sensors, it could target multiple targets at the same time. Most air-to-air combat used missiles, but with the lessons learned with the Phantom, F-14 had guns for dogfighting. At launch from an aircraft carrier, the pilot does not have his hands on the control stick. The computer handles the takeoff from the catapult launch. Only after he is airborne does the pilot take control of the plane. The A-6F Intruder was a Navy carrier-based answer to attack targets with its advanced technology in any kind of weather. It could carry many types of weapons. Its unique cockpit places the pilot and the weapons officer side by side. The Intruder had a long production run. There is a movie called The Flight of the Intruder. From a record-breaking maiden flight from JFK to Tel Aviv, to many flights in 23 years, and now the nose of the 4X ATA resides in the cradle of aviation. The public can climb the steps to the cockpit of that plane and see what it takes to fly a 707. The many instruments facing the pilot and the overhead panel make many wonder how they can keep track of where things are. The Nunley Carousel was manufactured in Brooklyn in 1912 for the Canarsie Golden City Park. It was moved to Baldwin in 1940. Billy Joel rode the carousel as a youngster. He wrote a waltz for the Nunley Carousel, and as the organ music played at the carousel. Nassau County purchased the carousel from the Nunley Amusement Park in 1995. The Nunley Carousel is a delight for young and old. Who can resist the music and the sheer joy of riding a horse or in one of the chariots, or the shouts of joy as a youngster has plucked a brass ring as the carousel whirls around? It is pure joy to take a ride on the carousel.